Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Where did I go? It's live. There I am. Today, let's see if I can get the day right today. Slow down, Carey. It's Thursday, the 18th of January, 2024. All right. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a web exclusive. We, as far as I know, are the first to review a brand new sub-brand for Minisforum called Kodlix of Mini PC. You know, we were probably the only video on the SZ box that did any in-depth review, any sort of normal review of it. And I'm really excited when I can bring you guys new stuff and be one of the first, if not the first, here on YouTube to bring you this content. So my thanks out to Minisforum for giving us this opportunity. Now, Kodlix is, as I mentioned, a sub-brand. And before we get started looking at that, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our friends over at Acronis. They are supporting us this year and supporting you too with a 30% discount off any Acronis products all year round. When's the last time you backed up your computer? I hope it was recently. I hope it was done at all. If you haven't done it, Acronis makes it easy, makes it affordable. In fact, with a 30% discount, they're practically giving it away. Also, thanks to our friends over at Instant House Call. That's the remote software I use when I remote into a client's computer. Some of you that I have remoted into are well aware of that. But yes, Instant House Call is remote software primarily designed for PC techs, although you could just use it as regular remote software if you wanted to. Very affordable. A discount is available for you guys as always. And there was some price changing from our friends over at VIP CDK Deals. And a lot of that has to do with the exchange rates. Since they're in another country, the exchange rates change when they change. Well, we had an email the other day that a price had changed and was asking if they were doing something wrong or did we have a typo. The problem when we list prices in the video notes is that prices are subject to change, especially when it's something in another country and we don't have any control over the exchange rates. Also, if there's any supply issues or distribution changes, then it could also affect the price, which of course we don't have any control over that. Rest assured, the prices are still fantastic. They're on average maybe 75 cents more than they were. Now, I've updated the video notes for the most recent videos to reflect the current prices, but do keep in mind, if you're watching an older video, those are prices from when that video was posted. So it would be a lot of work to go through 1,500 videos and change that. That's why it's just a bad idea to list the prices. On the other hand, if I don't list the prices, you guys may not really understand what a great deal that really is. But speaking of a great deal, you know, I ordered that MSI Meg motherboard. It's $550 motherboard that was being sold through Amazon at $200. So I ordered 2 of them. They arrived today. Nothing looks fishy. I mean, it looks like the real deal. Looks brand new, not refurbished, all on the up and up. So that'll be some content coming up with a build featuring the motherboard, the MSI Meg Ace Z690. That'll be coming up here maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks. I still have to get the rest of the parts. The price seemed too good to be true. I let you guys know. I know some of you ordered them. The price is now at $278, which is still half price, and is available via Amazon Prime now, where it wasn't before. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for a great deal on an extended EATX motherboard that weighs about 6 pounds. Thing is heavy. I mean, it's just got every port you can possibly imagine on it. Now, why it's so cheap, I can only speculate that perhaps it's last year's inventory, so they're just trying to blow up, you know, what existing inventory they have. I have no idea. I'm just happy it's all real. So, yeah, I was a little nervous, but, you know, I know Amazon's got my back. I just really wanted those motherboards at that price, and I got them. They're here, and they're real. All right. Thank you for the super chats. Hello, everybody. Gregory Howard with a $10 super chat said, good job on the Sega Tetslath mini build. There are no cables rubbing the fans. I was concerned the bottom cables and the cables that run behind the motherboard they're sandwiched between the back of the board, well, the motherboard tray, and the fans on the all-in-one cooler. There's two spots there where cables, if they're too much slack, they'll hit the fans and the fans won't spin. But he said, there's no cables rubbing the fans. You do good work, Carey. Well, thank you, Gregory. I'm glad you're happy with that. Scrolling. Gregory says he's going to put together a computer for the challenge. He puts a link to a cardboard and plexiglass case that looks terrible, but to each their own. You enjoy that. Let's see what else we got going on. Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat. He says he feels nerdy when he watches Carey, and I love it. Nice. Thank you for that. I think, is that a thank you? Was that a compliment or an insult? Well, he loves it, so either way. PSC Computers Missouri with $10 super chat says he loves the content. Paul O'Brien with €2 says keep up the good work. Ben Laird from Scotland contributes £2. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, PSC Computers Missouri. Right on. All right. Now, and Nick Caffrey with a €2 contribution. Great content in store, he says. Thank you, Nick. For those of you who are new here, don't quite know the routine, I try to make an informal friends hanging out. Let me show you this cool thing I found or whatever. Let's look at it together and determine if it's cool together. Type of videos where I feel like I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends. What I'm not trying to do is make a commercialized review. That's pretty much every review. When someone says to me, like they leave a comment and they go, oh, you spent 2 hours and only talked about the product for 45 minutes. Would you do that at dinner with your friends or your family? Where would you expect that? That's like, darn it, I wanted to watch a commercial. You should be making commercials because that's what I want to see. Look, I make the content that I want to make. And my goal, my hope, is that I'll find other kindred spirits that appreciate this content. Because telling me that I should be like all the other content creators is one of the biggest insults you can give me. It's sort of like, you should just do what everybody else does. Well, if everybody else is doing it, why should I bother? Now, that being said, I do realize not everybody's got an hour and a half or 2 hours to spend on a video, and they just kind of want my opinion on something. So when it comes to these mini PCs, please be aware that I have a separate YouTube channel called Mini PC Reviews. And on the Mini PC channel, I'll take the live video and I'll chop out all the chit chat, and it'll just be, so take for example, yesterday's video was a little over 2 hours and it got chopped down to 29 minutes. I upscale it to 4K and then I post it over there to the Mini PC channel. So if you want to remove all of the informal dialogue between me and my friends, because apparently you're not one of my friends and you feel bitter and upset that I'm not talking to you, I'm speculating. Subscribe over to the other channel because that's more your speed. And for everybody else, you're in the right place. We're going to do what we do. And those who don't like it, we're not going to accommodate them. If they want boilerplate commercials, they can go watch boilerplate commercials. No shortage of those here on YouTube. Now, that being said, the other thing that upsets me about a lot of the reviews is that they'll often just repeat back all of the specifications the manufacturer says on the site. So it's almost like people are too lazy to read and they want somebody to read it to them. That's degrading. For me, it's degrading. Have to spoon feed an adult. Let's take a look at those specs right now and what we're going to review today. Today, we have a Kodlix Mini PC. It's a brand new sub-brand from Minisforum, and they have a number of PCs to choose from. This one was only just released. It was available on Amazon last week, and the second day it was available, we got it. Okay, so this has now been waiting for me to review it. I've already taken it out of the box. I've already done the Windows updates. I've already done the, the carry optimization to it, and everything is good to go for the review here. That should be expedited since we don't have to wait for all the updates, etc. Unless any updates have come out in the last couple of days. But regardless of that, it'll be minor compared to, the normal 45 minutes we might have to wait for updates to happen. So over at the Amazon website here for Kodlix, let me grab a window capture. Sure, it's here. Here we are. We're talking about a pretty beefy little chunk here. This is the GD70. It's an i7. It has Windows 11. It's a 12th gen, 12650H. That's 10 cores and 16 threads. It has 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. This is no slouch. Supports PC HDMI output. Sorry, just HDMI output. Forget what I said, PC. It is a PC. It has a Type-C output, which can also, with a USB Type-C to DisplayPort out, support a third display. So you're looking at 3 displays, triple displays, that can support 4K simultaneously. So you can have 3 monitors hooked up to this at the same time. Wi-Fi 6E is included, Bluetooth 5.2 is included, and 2.5 gig Ethernet is included. Okay, this is a pretty serious beast, and you're looking at a $60 coupon here. That's going to bring you to $499. That's a lot of computer for $499. And if you scroll down, you'll see that there's a couple other versions. Now, the version we have, let me just double check what version we have here. I think we got the chunky one. Let's see. We have 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte. That's exactly what we have. And this thing is fast. I mean, you'll see. You'll see in a minute. Now, just in case you're like, who is Kodlix? There is a Kodlix store here. And they do sell other mini PCs of varying resource availability and price, right? So you have entry-level, mid-range, gaming, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a quality brand because, for the 3rd or 4th time, they're a sub-brand of Minisforum. I'm not going to keep saying that. But I will say that you do have that Minisforum quality, and you're also going to have a computer that people say, what the heck is that? I've never heard of Kodlix before. So if you want something different from everybody else, at least for now, unless it gets super popular, having that exclusivity is pretty nice. The problem with exclusivity is it usually doesn't last very long, but it is what it is. And the important thing is whether or not it meets your needs and your budget, etc. So in any event, they are a real company, reputable, and for $499, you're getting a lot of computer. I mean, I would challenge you to get a case, a power supply, a motherboard, a processor, RAM, storage, cooling fan, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, an operating system individually and spend less. I challenge you. You can't do it. That's a really good deal. If we read through the specifications here, this is pretty much what most reviewers do. All right, they're just reading these specifications. That's not really reviewing so much as making an advertisement. So we'll do that and then we'll actually review it. How's that for a concept? Okay, 12th Gen i7 Mini PC equipped with the 12650H. Talks a little bit about the processor. 45 watt power, so you can use less electricity to support an 8-hour workday. Great for office PC work, design, video editing, school education, billboards, home theater, etc. I agree with all that. It's equipped with 32 gigs DDR4, 3200 speed, and a PCIe Gen 4 support. It's also equipped with an expandable 2.5-inch solid-state drive. Well, it doesn't have to be a solid-state drive, but a SATA 2.5-inch drive bay is in there if you wanted to expand the storage with a bit slower storage, but a 2.5-inch drive. It'll hold one of those. Equipped with, of course, Intel's built-in graphics, the UHE graphics. This says 64EU. I don't know what that means. Up to 1.4 gigahertz, supports 4K and AV1 video decoding, bringing you an Ultra HD experience. We've got HDMI 2, USB-C, DisplayPort 1.4, video outputs that you can connect 3 displays at the same time. Can also be used in shopping malls, supermarkets, point-of-sale terminals, kiosks, digital signage, and interactive kiosks. We've got copper heat pipes for efficient heat conduction and liquid gold heat dissipation. That means making your mini computer more powerful and stable. PC computer, built-in quiet fan, only 43 decibels. At full load, you can hardly hear the fan sound. Our mini PC, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C, supports up to 100 watt power delivery and 4K 60 hertz video output with data transfer speeds up to 10 gigs per second. It's equipped with a 2.5 gig RJ45, which is 2.5 times faster than 1 gig. That's called math. The Intel Wireless Wi-Fi 6E 802.11ax features 2x2 multi-user, multi-in, multi-out technology, providing speeds up to 2.4 gigs per second, tri-band. So it's 2.45 and 6 gigahertz are also supported, with the 6-band offering more bandwidth, lower latency, and Bluetooth 5.2 has greater immunity to interference and a more stable wireless signal. Okay, that's how they promote it. All of that is true. Okay, it's been a long time since we've ever, or since any reviewer ever has reviewed a computer product where they found a discrepancy between what was described and what they received. A lot of times when these reviewers are saying, you know, how loud is it? And they bother like measuring the sound, it's exactly what the manufacturer says it is. What a shock. Or when they test the latest model of a laptop and they compare it to the last model, the new model's always faster. Gee, what do you know? Who saw that coming? So that kind of stuff drives me crazy. So I try to take a perspective more of the every person, like what would you do if you got this and how would you use it? Or in my case, how would I do it? So I just turn the camera on so we can share this discovery together and see things for the very first time, where I'm not writing a script and basically putting on a show. Instead, I'm just hanging out with my friends. We're just having a good time. So if you don't like hanging out with friends, you're on the wrong channel. All right, let's see how this is packed. Now, there was a plastic bag that this was in, and I had to tear it to get it out. Let me bring it up to the camera. It's going to look really familiar, like the pictures we just looked at. But, you know, that's what we do on reviews, right? We just repeat back what the manufacturers say, and hopefully we'll be able to bring up some unique content that's not already online. All right, there's the front. There's your 2 USB 3 Type A's up front. Your headphone, microphone, headset jack right there. We've got a power button. We've got a reset right there. I guess if you need to reset CMOS. Over here, this might be a little dynamic microphone. I don't know what that is. Might be in the directions. Let's turn it around the other way. Take a look on the back. Nothing on the sides, by the way. Nothing up my sleeve. Plastic, but kind of heavy. Not cheap plastic. Kind of. Well, obviously we can see where the RAM and the storage goes. Let's see, on the back, we've got our Kensington lock right up there. 2 USB 2s, looks like. We've got a display port, our 2.5 gig LAN or HDMI, our USB Type-C, and our power input, all right there. That's all there is to it. Now, when it comes to performance, this is actually quite stunning in my opinion. Just because it's not a 13th or 14th gen, in fact, I don't think there are any 14th gen mini PCs yet, doesn't mean you should turn your nose up at it, because there's not a whole lot of difference when we go from 12th to 13th to 14th. There's maybe a 10% difference between them at the most. Not much between 13 and 14, because 14 is nothing more than 13, really. So 14 should really be 13 part 2. Anyway, in the box, we've got some documentation here. I set it aside foolishly. I wanted to show you everything. So we have some little documentation in multiple languages. And in the bottom of the box, in here, we have the power brick. This was also in a plastic bag that I've removed. That's all I've done. All right, so everything else, we've got an HDMI cable. We have this little teeny tiny cable here. And this is what you will use if you want to put a 2.5-inch drive inside. You are going to need this little adapter, and that plugs into the drive and then into a socket on the motherboard inside of the unit. And then there are some screws so you can secure the drive inside of here if you want to do that. We've got our standard US power plug. They do have power plugs available for, let's see what countries they list here on the side. We've got Canada, Hong Kong, Australia, the UK, Japan, US, and Europe. So if you're ordering this from another country, be sure you're ordering it with the right plug. We've got the 4 screws right here for installing a 2.5-inch drive. We've got a VESA mounting plate with screws enclosed, and that's if you want to mount this computer behind your monitor or hang it on a wall or underneath your desk. That's all doable with these little mini PCs, most of them. This one is certainly qualifies for that. So let's move this. Let's see how I can do this. Let's just put this in here. I'm trying to clear a little space on my workbench for you. And just so you don't forget the name. Oh, there's also on this side of the box, I want to show you with regards to support. There is support information, so you're not just left hanging. If you buy one of these and you need service, right there is contact information. You'll see it's going to email support@minisforum. Okay? And that's good to know that they're not just selling you a product and never talking to you again. You have the ability to reach out if you have support questions. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. Let's get it hooked up so we can see how it runs. We can go with our internet connection, our HDMI connection right there. And, oh, keyboard and mouse, right? So let me turn this around here. And, oh, getting old. Keyboard and mouse. I guess I'll use the USB 2 ports in the back. Why waste a USB 3 port on a keyboard or a mouse, right? And then let's go ahead and switch this over to our HDMI input and put myself in a corner. Here we go. And then I'm going to power it up. Let me feel for the power button. I think it's right there. Did I find it? I have to plug in the power. This doesn't run off good feelings. All right, let me just plug in the power. Like I'm so anxious, I can't turn it on without power. That would have been cool if it worked though. I'd probably sell them out real fast. All right, let's go ahead and turn it on now and check out what the boot time looks like, as well as how responsive the machine is, verify the specifications, and try to answer any questions that you have or any concerns. We're already up. That's it. So if we go over here to our system properties, let me go full screen over here so I can see it better. This just makes it full screen for me. It's already full screen for you guys. I treat you guys well. All right, let's go over here and take a look at our performance of the enclosed drive. It is a Gen 4 drive, obviously not the fastest, but still not too shabby, right? 4808 on the reads, 3893 on the writes. That's on sequential. That's pretty good. Now, we can get up to a little over 7,000 if we want to go to a higher performance drive. However, those drives do get hot. And in a mini PC case, depending on how much you're using it, how often, and the kind, like if you're just doing a lot of intense writing to it, I don't know. I mean, it might be okay. It looks like it's got good airflow underneath, but I think if you left it alone, you would certainly not have any heat issues with this level of drive. So that's something to consider. If I right click down here on the start menu, I can go to System, and we can verify that we have 32 gigs of RAM, check. 12th gen i7-12650H, check. Windows 11 Home, all Minisforum computers. We repeat, all Minisforum computers. One more time, all Minisforum computers ship with Windows 11 Home. They no longer ship with Pro. We don't know why, that's just how it is. Even that MS-01 we reviewed, which is like a little mini server, Windows 11 Home. So that was kind of weird, but there's really not much difference between Home and Pro unless you want BitLocker, unless you don't want to use a third-party remote access tool, and unless you need to sign into a server. That's pretty much it. So for most home users, you wouldn't see a difference between Home and Pro. Pro doesn't really do anything else for you. So it's more of a psychological thing because of what Microsoft has done in the past with the differentiation. The difference between Home and Pro used to be pretty significant back in the day. Today, not so much. So anyway, it's not that big of a deal, but you can always upgrade it to Pro if you wanted to on your own. Okay, so let me go into the device matter. Oh, you'll see we're on 22H2. So still waiting on 23H2. That'll come in through Windows Update automatically when they're ready to give it to us, when they being Microsoft. See, if I go over here to settings and I go to Windows Update, they still might not even offer it. Let's just check and see. I can always force that. It's just silly to do that because it takes longer. And there's, again, really not much benefit to getting 23H2. It's a very minor update. You're going to get it, don't worry. If you insist on having it today, you know, you can force it on there, but it will come through. Make sure that Get the Latest Updates is turned on. I also, under advanced options, make sure that, that I want updates for other Microsoft products like Office to keep me up to date and to notify me when we're ready to reboot. And of course, we always look for any optional updates. That would be, say, oh, is my camera covering? My camera's covering. I'm sorry. Let me go through that one more time. We want to turn these features on. Receive options for other Microsoft products. Keep me up to date and notify me when a restart is required. And then down here under optional updates, we want to make sure if there's anything under here, we probably want it. Those are typically where the drivers to like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth updates are located there. They're optional. But for me, I don't consider them optional. They're available. They're available for a reason, and I want them. I don't need to know the reason. Finally, if we close this out, got to use the right mouse though. If we close this out, let's go over to our device manager and let's take a look at what's our network card? Who makes it? We're looking at a an i226V 2.5 gig LAN controller from Intel. And our Wi-Fi is MediaTek. I've never heard of them, but it's Wi-Fi 6E. Do know that Wi-Fi 7 cards are now available. So even though I bought a Wi-Fi 7 router last year, it was not Wi-Fi 7 certified. However, well, they just recently, the Wi-Fi Alliance recently certified what the rules or protocols are. What defines Wi-Fi 7 is now official. I will assume that TP-Link, which is the router I have, has already submitted their previous Wi-Fi 7 routers, like the one I have, for that certification because they're probably already meeting it. They wouldn't have built it if it was going to be out of spec. So I expect there to be the certification. I don't know if there'll be a firmware update can't imagine that there would be a firmware update for that unless it has to change something to match the requirement for the Wi-Fi 7 certification. I don't think it will. So if you wanted to upgrade this to Wi-Fi 7, we could go to Amazon. Let's go to Amazon. I could type. Just as an example, you don't have to go to Amazon, but this is where I go. Wi-Fi 7 card. I don't know, but that sounds good. And if you scroll, there's not a whole lot to choose from, but you do have the little laptop size Wi-Fi cards here. They're about $37, and it should just be replaceable. Most mini PCs, except where the Wi-Fi cards are soldered in, that's generally on the cheaper budget mini PCs. That's the downside. If you get yourself like the cheapest mini PC you can get, is you're just not really upgradable on those most of the time. So with something like this, we simply would order one of these BE200s. That's what they are. BE 802.11BE is the form, the name for Wi-Fi 7, just as before it was 802.11AX, and there was AC, and 802.11N, 802.11G. Now we're at BE, or BE200 in this case. And if I bring up that site and we take a quick look, you'll see you've got your 2 antenna points right there. So you should be able to use all your existing antennas that you have now and just pop the card out, pop the antennas off, put the new card in, put the antennas on, load the driver, and you're upgraded. It should be that easy for many laptops and many mini PCs. Just an FYI from your Uncle Carey. All right. Now, let me switch back over to camera 1. Bear with me here for just 1 second. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. And if you have any questions, I can't hear this. Like if this is on, I can't tell other than I see some blinking lights in the back. It's making no audible sound that I can hear. Of course, it's idle, but let me scroll. Old Man 55 says MediaTek is mostly in smartphones. All right, well, there you go. Scrolling through your chat. So with regards to the boot time, some folks are saying that an ad had played. YouTube's getting really aggressive on this stuff. Being a content creator is getting tougher and tougher as YouTube revenues continue to fall and plummet. That means creators don't get paid as much. And as a result, YouTube is getting very heavy-handed with the ads. But what we can do is we can just do a restart and you can see how long that takes. And hopefully we won't get interrupted this time. So let me go back over to HDMI input here. And let's just click on the start menu. And we'll go to restart. How's that? And then you can see in real time how long this takes to restart. There you go. There you go. Oh, my screen is blurry. That means my quality is back to 144p. See, YouTube does this to me too. So I'm going to take that off of auto, go to advanced. It's like 1080p. Oh, crystal clear, beautiful picture. Nice. All right, stay that way. So yeah, let's shut it down entirely, and let's do this one more time from a cold boot power up. So we'll do a start and a shutdown. I think that last shutdown was a little bit longer, I think, doing something in the background. Maybe not. Let's see if it fixes. Yeah, see, that was a lot faster. Sometimes when the computer's doing something in the background, you know, takes a few seconds longer. All right, I'm gonna power it on in 3, 2, 1, click. Here we go. Real-time cold boot. And we're up. So there you go. All right, there you go. Nick Poverman says, I refuse to pay for YouTube. Well, then you can watch the ads, right? I mean, the problem, Nick, is that if nobody's paying for YouTube, then who's paying for all the servers? Who's paying for all the bandwidth? Free is only sustainable for a certain period of time, especially if nobody's watching it, it goes away. And if everybody's watching it, it gets really super expensive. The guys who created YouTube only had it for 2 years. They were going to shut it down. It was growing too fast. The expenses were too great. They couldn't figure out how to monetize it. And that's when Google stepped in and bought it. So when Google bought YouTube, it was only 2 years old, and it was on its deathbed at 2 years old. So while you're not obligated at this time to pay for it, do bear in mind that if you tried to set up a site like this yourself, you'd be into millions of dollars. And to just give that away, there's really not much incentive to do that unless you can market some advertising. So that's just the way the world works. But no one also requires you to watch it. So if you want to watch it, that's your choice. I will say that I am paying for the YouTube, what do they call it now, premium? And I haven't seen a YouTube ad in a long time, and I don't have the patience for it. And it's like, what, $12 a month or something? I don't know. If the content you're watching isn't worth $12 a month, why are you watching it? That just doesn't make sense to me. You can't tell me it doesn't have any value to you, and yet you make time out of your day to watch videos. So, you know, if you can do without, why not? I don't know. You do you. You're okay. You don't have to pay anything. But it looks like YouTube is moving in a direction of trying to fix the revenue. And they're sort of, you know, starting by being a little bit more aggressive with ad blockers and advertising in order to keep it free. But as long as people keep being stubborn about it, it's just going to force it to a paid platform, or they're going to be doing something more invasive. So I don't know yet. I don't run the company, and I'm only speculating, but it's pretty clear to know the economics of free are not sustainable indefinitely. And just keep that in mind. You know, you're going to get what you ask for. If you like a restaurant really good and they give you an incorrect bill, and you're like, oh, lucky me, I'm getting away for not paying for my whole meal, and then you want to go back to that restaurant you enjoy and they're out of business, that's your fault, right? Because you didn't do your part to make sure that they're staying in business, which is, you know, for me, it's important. If I really like a place, I want it to stick around so I can continue to enjoy it. But maybe that's just me. But either way, you know, you do you. Let me go back over to camera one here, and let's see what else is on your mind here in the chat room. Frank Jimmy said it was a 19-second boot up. Hey, that's not bad. Captain Blinsky said his quality just went to 144p. Yeah, if your video ever looks blurry, that's because your browser or your YouTube app has determined that your bandwidth in that moment wasn't good enough to carry whatever quality you were watching. So just click the little gear or the cog icon, change your resolution to 1080. You should have a crystal clear, perfect sound. Everything should look great. 0260 Loft says, new subscriber. Hey, welcome into the community, Loft. We're always looking for like-minded, kind individuals. Welcome in. Greg M said YouTube Premium is $14 Canadian. Okay. And the Canadian dollar is worth about 75 cents American. Nick Boverman says, I don't mind ads, but not in the middle of a live stream that you can't skip. Well, that's how they're requiring you to watch the ad. If you don't watch the ad, YouTube doesn't get paid. If YouTube doesn't get paid because you want to skip the ads, you need to stop watching the videos or accept that that's how you're paying. I'm telling you, YouTube and other free platforms, you're not giving them much choice. And I would suggest what your answer to this is. I would ask what your answer, or what's your solution, because they've got thousands of people trying to figure this out, trying to come up with a platform that works. And there's just one thing that sticks, and that's going to be the advertising. And if people are going to use ad blockers and people are going to skip, then that's not going to work and your business is going to go under. So if it bothers you that much, stop watching them. That's the best advice I can give you. Or, you know, how cheap do you have to be to not have $12? I mean, I spend more than that at Arby's for lunch. So if you're really enjoying the content, but you don't think it's worth paying for, it doesn't really sound like you enjoy the content that much. But again, you're not breaking any rules. You're not doing anything. You're allowed to be irritated, but I wouldn't voluntarily do something that irritates me. I would do something else. So that's just my thoughts on that. I try to make sure that the education that I offer is worldwide available for free, but that's only within my ability. I'm relying on YouTube. And if YouTube starts doing these things, my choice is I can stop making videos, or I can become a members only channel so only paying members get to watch the content. Those are the only two options I have. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on this. Anyway, I will say that premium is so worth it. I was reluctant, but I'd say I get more out of YouTube Premium than I do from Netflix or Disney Plus or Amazon Prime Video. Like, I don't watch anything Amazon Prime Video, I don't think. Mostly my Amazon Prime is just for free shipping. I use the heck out of that. So in any event, you know, no one's forcing you. It's your choice. I want to emphasize that. Nick Poverman says he pays for YouTube TV. It should be included. So what you don't understand is the YouTube TV is paying the networks who, you know, like NBC, CBS, all of the networks. They sell a bundle and they control the price. And YouTube TV is essentially selling that to you at their cost. That is practically at YouTube's cost. That's what YouTube is paying those big media companies. That's why your cable bill or your satellite TV bill, that's why they're so similar, because they're all paying the same price to those media conglomerates. None of that is going to YouTube with regards to YouTube content. YouTube TV is network television on YouTube. It has nothing to do with YouTube content. So paying for that and then complaining that you're not getting something else, well, that's because you're not paying for that other thing. So when you see the price go up, when YouTube says the price of YouTube TV is going up, that's because the cost from the media companies, the distributors that distribute that regular media, are raising the prices. It's kind of a monopoly kind of a thing where they judge they're like, well, you can't have this channel unless you also have this channel. It's not your cable company doing that. That you're demonizing the wrong people. So yeah, if you think that should be included, you should pay $12 more. I mean, that's pretty much what it amounts to, because they're more or less selling that to you at cost. Ben Laird said he spent more on a taxi today than he does for a month of YouTube Premium. Scott says, I love this channel. Carey and Marlena DG are so valuable. Well, thank you, Scott. Flattery will get you everywhere. Direct Gam says he canceled his Amazon Prime and he doesn't have cable. He uses Netflix. Yeah, see, Netflix doesn't really have much in the way that I like to watch. I probably spend more time watching YouTube than anything else. And Mara and I will kind of kick back when we want to relax, and we do what we call squirrel on YouTube. And there's a lot of amazing content on YouTube, and YouTube is doing a very poor job of recommending new content. It used to be so much better. And part of the problem is they're focusing on these short videos, and these short videos are for people that have a very short attention span. They're like 90 seconds long. They're, to me, just quite irritating and annoying. They're very time consuming to make, and they generate almost no revenue for anybody. And yet YouTube is putting a lot of emphasis on promoting this. Makes no sense to me. And they're keeping the format in 9:16 vertical instead of 16:9, which makes it useless to watch on a TV when only a third of my TV is in use. So for me personally, I find the shorts really, really annoying with some exceptions. I like, what's it called? Dad talk, where the guys are sitting on the dock telling dad jokes. Those are good because you don't want an hour of those. But, you know, for the most part, I don't like YouTube shorts. And I certainly don't make any, not on purpose. And I wouldn't go out of my way to do that severe editing and publishing and promoting. You make $10 with 1 million views, 1 million views of a YouTube short video. This is all going to wash out in time. We're going to get a lot of creators who simply cannot afford to create anymore, or they can only afford to do it periodically, nothing regular. And if you look at what we've seen so far in 2024, we're seeing a lot of YouTube channels saying goodbye. So, you know, Matt Pat over at Food Theory, Style Theory, Game Theory, Movie Theory, he's wrapping it up. He has like 8 more episodes left and he's gone. And there's a number of also very well-known channels that are saying, hey, that's it for me, guys, we're out. Now, if things get better, hey, maybe they come back. I mean, in Matt Pat's case, there's a little bit more going on there, but certainly this has to be a part of it, sure of it. And when it stops compensating you for the amount of time you're putting into it, where you're working harder and getting paid less, where's the motivation from the creator to keep working that hard? So, for example, if I do a video every day this week, or I just do a video on Monday and Friday, the difference it makes on my income is minuscule. It's imperceptible. It's frustrating for me because why should I do these extra videos during the week when the extra amount I get paid is this? But if I don't make these videos on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if I stick to a Monday, Friday schedule, I get this, right? This, whatever this is. And this only grows by a little teeny tiny amount. You know, this is not your problem. It's a creator's problem. But you should be aware that these creators, such as myself, are dealing with this. Because when you see your creators are making content less often, or they just disappear, or they say goodbye, you should know why. And there's a brutal reality to this where it's very competitive. There's a lot of creators out there. And most of them are going to be self-financed unless you can find an outside sponsor. And you're not going to find an outside sponsor unless you have a pretty sizable audience. You know, you're not likely going to find a sponsor when you're just getting started. They don't know who you are. You have no reputation. You've got no audience who's watching your videos. But you're more likely to make a living from having a sponsor than you are from doing memberships or expecting YouTube revenues to pay off. Regardless if people are watching free or paying, it's not really going to make that much difference to the creator. When people who are YouTube premium subscribers watch my channel, their views are worth more to me. But I'd need a lot of them for that to make like a huge difference. So that's why as long as the content is free, as far as creators go, our income is very, very insignificant from free viewers. So you're less important as a viewer if you're not holding any value to the creator. So somebody who's a member, who's paying the channel, or a premium subscriber to YouTube, has their view gets the creator paid more. So those viewers are worth more. They have more value. Some viewers think, you know, well, my view is enough. I shouldn't have to give any more. Well, I agree, it should be, but it isn't. So for us as creators, we have to, you know, maybe sell merchandise, find sponsors, find other outside arenas with which to generate revenue. If we can't get it from viewers and if we can't get it from YouTube, how do we keep doing what we love, right? And then that's the challenge when you're trying to do that and at the same time focus on your business. And in my case, focusing on my real repair business too. It's a lot to juggle. I mean, just ask Mara. She's been handed off the administrative work, that's a full-time job. Just YouTube administration making the thumbnails, doing the video notes, the tags, the keywords, the search engine optimization, answering emails from viewers, reaching out to sponsors and trying to negotiate deals, or trying to reach out to companies that we want to review products or do the research for which products we'll go buy if we have to review it. That in and of itself is a full-time job. So that job pays nothing as far as YouTube is concerned. So hopefully you're making enough on your channel that you can pay any employees. And then what that ends up doing is it starts, the content becomes fast and loose. And that's what happened over at Linus Tech Tips, right? They just were cranking out so much content that the quality didn't matter anymore. It was publish or perish mentality, and it didn't matter about the quality. Just get it done, move on to the next one. It was just all about quantity. Now they've been smacked down and caught. They've been doing that a long time. People got, enough of it. And hopefully they refocus their strategy, but it means producing less videos. Producing less videos means you're going to bring in less income. You bring in less income, you can't afford to pay all the employees. You're going to have to let some people go. So it's shrinking instead of growing until things get settled in and they find some other platform for generating revenue, which they may have done. I really don't know. I'm sure they had a pretty big nest egg that they could sort of ride out, but that won't last forever. At some point, the nest egg will dwindle to nothing if they can't get this figured out. And there you go, right? There's a reason why folks like PewDiePie have stopped. Top of the game. And a lot of that reason is financial. So in any event, that is my insider look at the challenges and obstacles being a creator brings about. But hey, I'm Gen X. We're used to obstacles and challenges. We've been dealing with that all our life. It's just another day. And I'm glad to have you here. And I appreciate your honesty. Even if we don't agree, I hope I can at least explain the reasoning behind why I have the attitude I have about it, right? Which will be different from you. It doesn't really change your life any if I don't make videos anymore. But it certainly would change mine. I'd have to find another source for this income. And that would probably mean doubling down on my PC repair business, which I have been letting kind of stabilize and not grow. But at the same time, I could go back to knocking on doors and go get some more customers. Done it before, I could do it again. I just don't really want to. I really like doing this. And I like having you guys with us. So how cool is having this community, and what's that worth? I'd say it's priceless. Okay, let's just take a look through the chat. Gary says a lot of music reactors are shutting down because of copyright strikes and dwindling revenue. Yeah, of course. Sure, the reaction videos, I mean, they shouldn't be monetized in my opinion. Jim KJ3N is a content creator. He has his own channel here on YouTube, and he says he averages making one video a month, and that's about all he can afford. These videos cost money to make. People don't understand that. He says, I am never, ever going to make money on YouTube, so I don't see the point of killing myself to make content. I agree with you. Steve McCure says, forget making videos, shut down the channel, go get a job at a California McDonald's for more money. Do you know what rent in California costs? McDonald's pays more because the costs in California are higher. So you'll basically, if you make $13 an hour here and you make $20 an hour in California, you'll actually have a better lifestyle here at $13 an hour. Because in California, you're going to pay more for groceries, for gas, in your taxes, everything. Your rent, your insurance. Yeah, 20 bucks an hour ain't going to cut it in California. Now, if you could get the 20 bucks an hour California pays while living in Idaho, that'd be pretty good. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. Grass is always greener, as they say. Scrolling. Anybody have any questions for me about the Kodlix? I guess we could open it up and see what the inside looks like. After all, we're the first people to have it, so it's not like you can see that anywhere else, right? Kind of feel like it's my obligation. So let me get the overhead camera set up. Let's shut this down. Let me go over here to my HDMI input. We'll shut this down here. Oakley dokley. Back over to camera 1. And let me grab the close-up camera, my overhead camera, my robotic Mara. Here we go. About there ought to be good. Does that look good to you? I think it looks good. This up a little bit higher. I have to loosen it to turn it, but then when I do that, it starts to slide down the tube. But, you know, it's better than trying to handhold the camera and do this at the same time. So let's go ahead and get this turned on. I also like to show you guys how all this is done rather than in slick editing, switching from one camera to another. I like you to see what's the process. How do we get there from here? Now, let me go over to the close-up camera and see how we're lined up. I know I'm way off. So there's the Kodlix machine. Power is off. Need to move this closer to me. And we'll go ahead and unplug power. We don't want to work on this with power. Now, obviously, screws are going to be under the rubber feet because that's what Minisforum likes to do. Don't know why. It's probably the one major complaint, the biggest complaint I should say that I have, is these could have little holes in them, or they could move the rubber feet away just to make access a little easier. How do we get these off? Are they glued? Let's just grab a flat edge. Chris Dune or Dunn with a $1.99 super chat says, "Thanks, Forrest, for what you do. I'm an excellent driver." And Alan Lindos with $7.77 says hello. And that's his late fee. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Chris. All right, let's see if I can figure out how this comes apart here. First time. Be gentle. Oh, those are on there good. That is some serious glue. You see what I mean? Like, they make it so easy to open up. If the rubber feet weren't here, or if the rubber feet had holes, I suppose we could put holes in them. But, yeah. Here we go. I think I finally got underneath it. Okay, see, it's a good thing I didn't drill a hole in the middle because the screw was actually closer to this corner. That's why if they just move the foot just a little bit, you know, and leave that exposed, that would make life so much more, it would just make access easier and more welcoming. This kind of feels like keep out. You know what I mean? So the good news of knowing that the hole is there for the screw is that we just need to get the screwdriver in there and then lift up on it. So we go to the corner, find the hole. There it is. See, I'm not struggling anymore to get those off once you know that little secret. All right, one more. I guess I need to get these cables unplugged because I'm starting to get wrapped up in them here. Okay. Wham! Wham! I know, I'm kind of whining about it, but you know what? It just can make it easier. Why not make it easier is all I'm saying. Not like it would take that much effort. All right, now to get a driver down in there, I'm going to need a more of a precision Phillips driver, so I will use these drivers here. So I got this kit, I think Nick Poverman sent this back in the day, and I didn't really use it much until recently when all these mini computers have come out. I found this to be quite handy. And these can be found over at Harbor Freight Tools here in the US. And I'm probably going to need maybe that one right there. Let's see. That one actually feels a little bit small. Let's try this one right here. So the camera's going to focus on what's ever closer. I probably should lock the focus on this. But there is one screw there. Let's get this out of the shot. Yeah, I think after the show, look at the focus options on this camera and set the focus to lock on this. And then my hands will be blurry instead of it's doing the opposite of what I want it to do. Okay, finally. Last screw. And then it says right here, it says front, and you'll see there's a little notch right there. So we'll take something straight edge and small, stick it in that little notch, and lift up. Something's locking us in here. Do not use any brute force on this. It should come up without much of a fight. It's acting like I'm missing a screw, but I've removed all of them. What is holding this in right here? Something in the back. Can't really see it. You know, I'm wondering if maybe, from looking at this, it looks like this whole piece is attached to this piece. So it doesn't look like it's just a flat piece here. It looks like by keeping the USB dongle for the keyboard and mouse in, that might be preventing me from lifting this up, because it looks like it's going to be like L-shaped. We're going to have this piece, and then you see the cutout here. It goes around towards me, or if I turn it around, it's towards you. See that line? That looks like it's all one piece. Sure looks that way to me. And that's why you don't want to use brute force on this, because I could have broken it very easily by trying to force that. It should come up with relative ease. So let's try one more time. See if we can. So we're still getting kind of jammed up right here. And I think it's because, yeah, it's because I think these ports are poking through these holes. So there's probably an easier way to do this than the way I'm doing it. However, what if we start from this side instead? That was a lot different. No effort required. See? So if you're struggling, you're doing it wrong. So take a breath, take a different approach. Now, on the bottom of this is where your 2.5-inch drive can go. You've got the brackets here on each side, along with the screws included with the box. And then you've got your connector right here on the board for your 2.5-inch drive install, right there. There's our NVMe drive. It has a heatsink on it. That's nice to see. There's two 16 gig modules here. $3,200 speed. And then there is our Wi-Fi card. As I said, if I wanted to put Wi-Fi 7 in there, take out that one screw, Remove the two antennas. Well, you got to remove the cover. Remove the two antennas carefully. They just kind of snap on there. Put your new card in, your two antennas go back on. That can be a challenge sometimes because they're very tiny. And then there's your CMOS battery. Everything's accessible. There's no reason for you to get to this other side. If you wanted to, there's 4 screws and you could take the whole board out, but there's really no reason to do that. If you wanted to, dust it out, you would just go in through the holes. You don't need to, and nor would I recommend you take the whole thing apart, because it's very easy to damage. As you saw, I almost damaged it just opening it the way I did. It's pretty well spec'd out the way we've got it here. I'm very happy with this NVMe drive. I'm very happy with the RAM. I'm extremely happy with the performance of the processor, and the Wi-Fi 6E is nothing to shake a stick at. So putting this back on, I would assume, is the opposite of taking it off. There might be a track that this fits in. I do see little teeth down here that perhaps, oh yeah, it just clicked in place. So it kind of threw me with that little slot. Apparently we don't even need that. So we put the screws back in, put the feet back on, we're back in business. So what's great is how easy that is to upgrade once you realize how the cover comes off, which isn't too bad when you know how to do it, but that's what these videos are for. Let me struggle so you don't have to. So you get the cheat, the walkthrough, if you will. We go back to camera 1. We'll turn off the close-up camera and we'll get this set aside. All right, that's pretty much all I've got for you today, unless there are other questions regarding the Kodlix or anything else on your mind. We'll open it up to public discussion with a priority to any questions remaining on the mini PC that you might have that I haven't already covered. Feel free to ask. I may not know the answer, but I can at least I can try. And besides, we have a very knowledgeable chat room. They might know the answer. And for any question, any technical related question, jump over here to my screen. Good, good, good. Okay. Looking through your comments. Somebody said I broke it. No, I did not break it. But that's why you don't want to use brute force, because I very easily am capable of breaking it, believe me. Let's see. Douglas Burchell says easy peasy. Yeah, like I said, when you know how to do it, really not that difficult. Are there any benefits to the Wi-Fi 7 card? Well, if you have a Wi-Fi 7 router and you have a Wi-Fi 7 card, then your bandwidth is better. Wi-Fi 7 adds, well, here, instead of me just repeating, there is a great YouTube video that Theo Joe did. He's also another great channel to subscribe to. He's got lots of good information. I've heard some things about him in the past aren't too good, but that's in the past. So I haven't seen any reason to not watch Theo Joe. He's got the whole sort of rigmarole on Wi-Fi 7. And if let's go to our window capture here. Here we go. This is Wi-Fi 7 is here and why it's awesome. This is Theo Joe's video if you want to learn more about Wi-Fi 7 and whether or not this would affect you. It might not. It certainly isn't going to make your internet any faster. However, if you're transferring files internally or you need more range or you want more speed with a Wi-Fi 7 router and card, what a shock, the new Wi-Fi is faster. We talked about when people review an old laptop versus a new one and they go, oh, the new one's faster. Well, of course it's faster. So in that sense, Wi-Fi 7 is faster, but that's provided you've got Wi-Fi 7 devices and a Wi-Fi 7 router. The new Samsung S24 Ultra, I believe, will have Wi-Fi 7 in it. So, I mean, I don't know what benefit it has on a phone, but whatever. I'm a nerd. You know, I do a lot of data transfer. I work with big video files. I'm moving files around all the time. I need large storage. I want it to be fast. I don't want to spend all day waiting for files to move. Like when I updated the and edited yesterday's video so I could post it to the other channel, I have to take the file from here, put it on a flash drive because this is on a different network. And even if I put it on the same network, it would still transfer slower than me just copying it to one of my external drives, walking it over to the back room, which is my video editing machine. In fact, yesterday I even did it a little differently than that. Video editing machine's a little uncomfortable to sit at after a while. So what I ended up doing is I actually edited on my laptop in the next room over. Then I saved the project file and took the project file and the source file onto the flash drive, which copies real fast because I have real fast stuff. Then took it to the editor, copied it back over, loaded the project file, and then all I did is render. Project file was already edited. All it needed to do was render, and my laptop would take 6 times longer to render that file, and I don't want to wait. Once that render was done, which was 10 minutes to render a 30-minute 40K file, I think it was 8 minutes, I copied the rendered file back onto that same solid state external drive, flash drive, walk it back in here, plug it back in here because this is the only computer that's on the faster upload network. And it really only handles one stream at a time. So if multiple computers try and use it, everything slows down. So then I copy the file over here that's rendered. I upload it using the faster bandwidth. And then YouTube takes about 2 hours. I think it took 120 minutes to process that file last night. That's a lot of work to provide you guys, the general public, with free videos. And because of the state of Studio B, I don't have the ability to have my own. Can't, as far as internet goes, Starlink isn't going to be fast enough, too much latency for live video. And 5G is a little spotty. So I'm kind of stuck with what I have and just grateful I have it, because if you remember back in the early days of Studio B, we had a very difficult time broadcasting for several months, maybe even a year went by before we got things figured out. So now it's like, just leave it alone. Don't break it. All right, so let's see here. Back here in the chat, Raphael says SneakerNet. Yeah, that's right, that's the SneakerNet. Marlena says the editor is my workstation. Yeah, well, it has to be. The building's not that big, so we got to double up. Jim KJ3N says a 1 gig LAN translates to about 125 megabytes per second. Copying to an external SSD is about 3 times faster. So Jim, yes, you are correct. The external SSD I have on that back computer that has USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2, it moved 12 or 14 of my downloaded video files, which are each about 2 gigs each. It moved all 12 of them in under 12 seconds. Like it was just, it's like, holy cow. Now remember, that computer back there is a 13500 with the Gen 5, I don't think it's the T700. I think it was the other one that does 10,000 megabytes per second. I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, I no sooner plugged it in and hit copy, and just that line just moved across the screen, and I had all of my video files. Now, granted, on the laptop, the USB is slower, so it took longer for me to copy the files onto that drive from the laptop. But that's the beauty of having a fast drive, is it'll run as fast as whatever I plug it into. So it's not slow for everything. And yeah, that was moving the data at 1.86 gigabits per second. Gigabytes, 1.86 gigabytes per second is what the copy transfer said. It's 2000. Yeah, when you have the 3.2 Gen 2 by 2, it's at 2000. Is it megabytes or megabits? Anyway, it's fast. Totally worth it. Now, if we have a 2.5 gig LAN, then we can move the data at about somewhere between 270 and 300 megabytes per second, which is significantly slower. And because Studio B is not wired, it would have to be wireless to the opposite side of the building. And the signal degradation means that we're going to not see those kind of speeds unless I run an Ethernet cable across the floor all the way across the building to the bedroom. It's a tripping hazard. And I only need that to copy one file. What, do all that work and then take it all down? So that's why I do it the way I do it for now. Hopefully there'll be some upgrades in the future, but nothing is currently planned. John Williams says he's glad I posted that picture of Lyle on Facebook the other day. This is the dog. Well, Jimmy's doing well. Jimmy's like 80 pounds now. He's a big boy. He's not overweight. He's just very well built out. I'm going to grab another Gatorade here. But again, if you have any questions for me, please ask them now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up today's video. My thanks over to the folks at Minisforum for giving us the opportunity to be the first people to share this with you, so you can be the first people to know about it. And we have a couple other firsts planned if things come through like they're supposed to and nothing unexpected happens. I've got some unique content planned for you that I think you're going to enjoy. We should be one of the first channels to have some of the equipment I'm going to show to you here in the next month or two. Not every video, just obviously I can't, there's not that much new stuff, but I'm just really flattered that we're working with some companies that value what we do, are prioritizing us to review their product. So certainly appreciate that, and I want you to know it's because of you. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat says, Carey, is 32 gig the maximum amount of RAM, or will it take more? So anytime you're looking at DDR4 RAM, if you have, well, the maximum size memory you can buy for DDR4, whether it's the SO-DIMM laptop style memory or a desktop, the single largest is 32 gigs. So depending on how many slots you have, it's 32 gigs per module times however many slots is your maximum on pretty much all DDR4 computers. So this one has 2 slots. The maximum size we can buy is 32 gigs times 2. So 64 gigs would be the same maximum on this as it is for all DDR4 computers that have 2 slots. So you don't have to ask that question. It's always the same. It's a limitation basically of the size of the memory module, which does not exceed 32 gigs. Now with DDR5, you can go to 48 gig modules. And we certainly can do that even on the MSO1 for Minisforum that we reviewed, where it said the maximum was 64 gig. They were wrong, because we put 248 gigs for a total of 96, and it works just fine. So yeah, DDR4, even if it's a desktop, if you have 2 slots on your desktop computer, then 64 gigs is all you can put in. If you have 4 slots on your desktop computer with DDR4, then 128 gigs is the max you can put in. Universal across the board. Is there no hidden malware in Google browser? There's no Google browser on it. And that was a company called Ace Magic or Ace Magician. And it only affected 3 of the 30 models they make. So let's not make that into a bigger deal than it really was. No, Minisforum was never affected by that. Nobody else was affected. That was an Ace Magic issue regarding 3 models. That's it. That's all it was. But feel free to download Malwarebytes and scan any new computer, regardless of who makes it, because you just never know when some sneaky person could be an employee with a bad attitude or a contractor that's trying to get away with something. You know, and then you get affected by it. Hopefully the media finds out, we out them, it gets corrected, and around the wheel goes. But that's just not normal, nor is it common. And once it's brought to their attention, it's immediately corrected. So very short-lived. Ben Laird says he's waiting for DDR10. Okay. NetFreak says the more RAM you have, the bigger your hibernation file will be. Well, we've certainly covered that. Maybe you learned that here. We've covered that, and I always recommend turning the hibernation file off. I don't think hibernation should be used on anything unless it's got a battery on it, so like a laptop. Otherwise, it's just wasted hard drive space, and it's an easy command line to shut it down. And you can watch my past videos if you want to see how to do that. If you've got a particularly small storage drive, but you've got a lot of RAM, which in itself would be weird. However much RAM you have is how big your hibernation file is going to be. But I'm just repeating what I've already talked about. I've talked about that numerous times over the last 10 years. So you can go back and look at those videos if you want. But you can very easily turn off the hibernation file. In fact, my Windows 10 optimization tool, that's one of the things it does. If it auto detects you're not on a laptop, it'll shut that hibernation file off, freeing up that hard drive space regardless how much RAM. Can you get RAM much faster? But it's not really the speed of the RAM, it's the amount of RAM. And every point you reach a point of diminishing returns where the more you add, the less you notice. So for most people, 16 gigs is about all they're going to need, but some people would benefit from 32. Very few people benefit from 64 gig. And it's likewise, when you're already going so fast, how much time can you possibly save? If our boot time was 19 seconds and we can cut that in half, let's just say we could. Let's say we cut that in half to 10 seconds. We're only saving 9 seconds, but at what cost? And if we could cut that 10 seconds in half, we'd be down to 5. So you're only saving 5 seconds, but at what cost? And if we could cut that 5 seconds in half, we'd be down to 2.5 seconds, thereby only saving us 2.5 seconds. But at what cost? And if we're at 2.5 seconds and we boot up and can cut that in half to now 1.2, 1.5 seconds. No, I'm doing the math wrong. I had it right the first time. 1.25 seconds. It only saved us 1.25 seconds. But at what cost? And if we're at 1.25, I don't need to keep doing this, do I? Your benefit keeps reducing and shrinking, but your cost keeps going up just to get those little bits. This has been a staple of auto racing since the beginning of auto racing. How fast do you want to go? How much money do you want to spend? It doesn't matter if you're talking NASCAR, Indy, F1, or drag racing. We can make the cars faster. But to get just that little bit more, it's going to cost a ton. If you go shopping for a car and you take, let's say, a Dodge Challenger, it's a very affordable car, say a V6, 300 horsepower, it's no slouch. But if you say, well, I want more, I want 400 horsepower, you're going to add another $10,000, half of the price, well, a third of the price of that car goes up for just that little bit extra. And if you want to go to 800 horsepower, I hope you plan on living in it, because you'll be clearing $70,000 to $100,000 or more just to get that little extra. The rest of the car is mostly the same, although they often will change to a racing suspension, which is far more uncomfortable. It's bouncy, it's hard riding, and it's loud. And the gas mileage goes right down, so you're going to be spending more on the gas. You're going to be filling the tank more often. The insurance is going to be higher. All that so you can, get a little bit more. So this is true pretty much in all aspects of life, where there's a cutoff point. And that's why I say, I strongly advise you guys, stay away from the cheapest thing, whatever it is in life. Stay away from the cheapest thing. And stay away from the most expensive thing. Nobody buys a Ferrari because it's a good value or because it's reliable. But in the middle, between the cheap stuff and the elite expensive stuff, there's a giant middle there of Toyotas and Nissans and Fords and Chevys and Suzuki, and I don't know who else is there. The countless Volvo, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Smart, Fiat, Mazda, Subaru. The list goes on and on and on. And that's a lot to choose from. And something from that middle, Hyundai, Kia, something in that middle, not on the low end and not at the high end. There's this huge, giant middle And that's where I'm always guiding for things like builds, except here on the channel, we do sometimes do these big expensive builds, but that's purely in the hopes that the video will be popular and get a lot of views. I don't actually use a very powerful computer. The computer I use most is my 8th gen laptop. And I have an 11th gen laptop and a 13th gen laptop that mostly sit around and collect dust. I like the 8th gen. What I'll likely do is get one of those Wi-Fi 7 cards and another 4 terabyte drive, because I'm almost filled up my 4 terabyte drive on my 8th gen laptop. And I believe I have 2 M.2 slots. And I'm not planning on retiring it anytime soon. So I think hopefully I'll make a video out of it where we can pop the cover off. We've already done this once when I upgraded it to 64 gigs of RAM, maxed it out in a single 4 terabyte NVMe drive. And that was years ago. The reason I did that was so I could use it for many years to come. And it's exactly as I planned. Everything's great. It's fast. However, I'm running out of space. So if I can add another 4 terabyte drive and pop the Wi-Fi card out of there and put in a new Wi-Fi 7 card, that might increase my bandwidth here wirelessly in Studio B and just add a little bit more life, because I don't want to let it go. I'm kind of emotionally attached to it at this point, even though I have better laptops and I have much better desktops. I just know this one. I know every nook and cranny. I can use it blindfolded. I don't know what good that would do me, but I'm very familiar with it. So at this point, it's no longer a logical decision. It's an emotional one. I've bonded with this thing. I don't want to give it up. And if I can give it more useful life, you know, there's no reason why that laptop, and it's still running Windows 10, but it could run Windows 11 because it is an 8th gen Intel chip. But let's just say, even if it just was till the end of Windows 10, we're looking at October of 2025. That's a whole nother year and a half, more than a year and a half. So I think it's worth putting some money into it. And then if I want to upgrade it to Windows 11 or what might be Windows 12, we might see a Windows 12 this year. We'll see. If that happens, skip right over 11, put on 12, and I can continue to use that laptop with how built up it is, in theory. In theory. See. Yeah, is it wrong for a man to love his laptop? Because if it is, I never want to be right. Paul O'Brien says, don't buy a cheap computer, build one. Well, that makes better sense. You could build your own system far less money than anything pre-built, and you know, get a really good value on that. Ben Laird wants to know if there's any point in overclocking. Well, modern processors overclock themselves now. And that's why some of these chips can be, you know, on the high end can be difficult to cool, because they'll turbo up, and it's basically an automatic overclock. So any overclock you can get above and beyond that is going to cost you a lot of money for extreme cooling. It's going to result in very little performance difference. And some people do that because they find it to be a fun challenge. And in doing so, they're spending thousands of dollars and burning up chips, because how do you know when you've pushed it too far? You fry the chip. When you fry the chip, oh, well, you go buy another one. So if you're not in that financial position and you're not chasing numbers, there's no practical reason why they need to overclock. Like, they just do it. There's a small group of people that do it. They almost all make videos because they're the enthusiasts, and they enjoy the challenge and they have the budget to do it. But for most of us, if we did that, we'd be out of a computer. And even if we succeeded, we wouldn't notice much performance difference, nor could we justify why we needed it. So for the most part, modern AMD and Intel CPUs automatically overclock themselves now. They truly do overclock. We're not just talking turbo. We're talking where the motherboards are sending more voltage and actually increasing the clock speed of the chip. And you know, the motherboard BIOSes are getting much, much more intelligent to be able to just auto do this by themselves without causing any harm to the chip. Although there have been stories where chips have been harmed, and some argument over whether or not AMD or Intel will void the warranty because of the manufacturer's BIOS doing that. So that was around in discussions a few months ago. The short story was the manufacturers will cover it, but yeah, Asus there was a big thing with Asus where they said, you know, your warranty will be void if you get this BIOS update to address it. But you needed the BIOS update. So how can you give me an official BIOS update, then tell me if I apply it, you're going to void my warranty? So that was a big to-do. You can Google that, but that was a few months ago. NetFreak says I've never overclocked. There's no need for it. Well, that would be my question, really. It's not so much, can you overclock? The question is, what's in it for you? When you spend the money and the time to figure out where you're crashing and where you're stable, it's a long process. It'll take you days, if not weeks, before you find that sweet spot. And then I would ask you, what was it before and what is it now that it's stable? And it's usually not more than, I'd say somewhere between 5 and 12% faster. And you know, these CPUs are designed to ramp down when they're being idle, but when you overclock them, you're sort of keeping them up. That means they're sucking in power. And so we're living in a time where people are so self-conscious about drinking out of plastic bottles that things like Yetis and reusable cups, you know, Stanley makes one, that are very, very popular in our culture right now. People are walking around with these metal cups to save the economy. People are switching their light bulbs out to LEDs. We're doing all this stuff to be mindful of taking care of our planet. And yet, on the other hand, we still have these gas-burning cars that are 800 horsepower that, you know, who needs 800 horsepower on a street car? There's fewer of them, but nonetheless, an electric car is often faster off the line. Better, well, we can argue about whether or not it's better for the environment. However, you know, you've got these Just Stop Oil protesters annoying everybody who have nothing to do with controlling the oil distribution and manufacturing companies. You know, go protest the companies, go protest the politicians. Why are you bothering innocent civilians? That's just harassment. And then you've got, you know, everything from paper straws, all this other stuff. And then you've got people who want to overclock their chip, which is essentially making it suck in as much power as it can take at all times. And the challenge is to keep it from burning itself up. Well, that's not environmentally friendly at all. That's like a big middle finger to all the people making all this extra effort to ride a bicycle to work and, you know, buying an electric car and whatever else they're doing. And maybe they stopped eating meat because of the cows and the methane and all this other stuff. So it's sort of like the work some people are doing are being undone by other people. So from my perspective, watching it like a tennis match, I can't figure out what have we as a community or as a culture decided. Have we decided we care about the planet? Certainly seems that way over here. Have we decided who cares? I want power. Well, that's what they're saying over here. I have no idea who's winning that fight. But it's something to consider when you see overclockers. They're basically giving a big middle finger to anybody who cares about the ecology. So, you know, the manufacturers are taking great strides to reduce power. Some of these mini PCs are very low wattage. And when they use lower wattage, they generate less heat. When they generate less heat, they don't need as aggressive as cooling, and that means they're quieter. And then what are you going to do if you had the extra power? What is it that you do with your computer that justifies you needing that much power? And most people I ask that question to don't have an answer. And if you ask them why they're doing it, they really don't know why. It's just they find it challenging, but for no particular end goal other than achieving a high score. It's like a game. When you enjoy your game, it's a very expensive game. Car racing is also a very expensive game. So count me out. If I'm not there, start without me. But again, modern CPUs overclock themselves, but they only do it when you're processing and you need it. When you don't need it, they ramp themselves down. They go to a lower power state. That brings your fan noise down. It brings your heat down. It brings your electric bill down. And then, like, if I'm sitting there and I'm editing a video, the computer's mostly idle unless I'm scrubbing through the video. It doesn't really work until I hit the render or the export button. That's when things start to ramp up. And then it renders the video. You might hear the fans start going loud. Then the video render is done, and then the fans quiet back down. Power consumption goes down. So I only use the more power when I need it. It's like being in a car. And, you know, I have a pretty steady foot. I don't waver my speed much. Drive a comfortable speed. But sometimes I have to make a maneuver that I might have to put my foot down on the floor to blow past somebody so they don't try and speed up and prevent me from passing them. This is Phoenix. And it's temporary. You know, the RPMs will shoot up, the speed will shoot up. I get ahead, I move over, and I go back to where I was. Which, by the way, if the person in front of me was simply doing that, I wouldn't have needed to get around them, right? Just want to try and maintain a steady speed. This is safer to drive this way. It's certainly safer for everybody around you. When you're going super fast, other people aren't expecting it, right? So they'll look in the rearview mirror and they see you way back there. So they go to change lanes and you honk your horn because they almost hit you. Well, they weren't expecting you to get from all the way back there to right up next to them in those few seconds. And that is one of the dangers inherent with speeding, is other drivers don't expect it. And of course, when you go faster, you crash harder. So the devastation's much more real. But, you know, it's your gas tank. If you want to blow through a tank of gas because you want to show off, I don't care. Just do it away from me. You know, you want to kill yourself or you want to kill somebody else, I want no part of it just because of people doing street takeovers and just being fools. Now, granted, that's mostly younger people, but not always. I've seen some gray-haired old men in their Corvettes showboating. That's a sad, sad thing to see. At least with the kids, you can go, they're a dumb kid. But when it's an old man, you're like, how did he live this long? Whatever happened? We've made society so nerf-coded, and these people should have perished years ago based on their decision making. How did they reach that age? But I digress. Supreme says he underclocks his chip. Now, see, that's the opposite. Just like with cars, you have hypermilers. And these are people who are trying to drive in such a manner is to not get there faster, but to get there with better mileage. So if you look up in Google hypermilers, there's news stories about it, and there's discussions like on Reddit on what people have done to get their Prius to get them 86 miles to the gallon. Hey, that's something to brag about. If I see a Prius doing 90 miles an hour on the freeway, I just shake my head. Like, that's not what a Prius is for. By the way, a Prius doing 90 miles an hour will get worse gas mileage than a BMW doing 90 miles. I'm just saying, it's not what you drive, it's how you drive it. So you can tell who cares about the environment. I bought my Prius, see, I care about the environment, but now I'm going to drive 90, which totally defeats the whole purpose of it, and it actually gets worse mileage. So, you know, people are the problem. I mean, if we really want to fix this planet, you need to get rid of the people, and the planet will recover, no problem. But it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. All right, I'm just looking for any final questions. We're just about at that 2-hour mark. We're about 20 minutes away. And Gregory Howard with a $20 super chat says, here's $20 just because. Good night, all. Hey, thank you, Gregory. And thank you for, again, your patience in waiting for the Segatep Slath and for supporting the channel, for your friendship. I appreciate you very much. And let's scroll. I don't think I'm seeing much here. Kind of quiet in the chat room today. Guys get shy on me? Samuel Kowalski with 99 cents in super chat. Right on. Thank you, Samuel. Matt says the only overclocking he does is when he has to change the time. PSC Computer says, take care, Carey. Another great vid. Be safe and God bless. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to you all, and we'll just kind of sit here for a minute as I put this back together quietly. Okay. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you again to the folks at Minisforum. Thank you to Acronis, our friends over there at Acronis with the amazing backup software, cloning software, imaging software that you see me use all the time. I use it in my real business, been using it officially since 2009. Thank you to our friends at Instant House Call for remote access. Check it out. RoboForm. That's my password manager. It's what I use. I've been using it for years. I wouldn't know how to live without it. Never had a breach. It's never caused computer blue screens. They're the original password manager. If you haven't tried any of this stuff, I urge you to check it out. And if you're looking for discounted, legitimate Windows or Microsoft Office keys, VIP CDK deals, we've been working with them now, going on 3 years. Everything I'm talking about is guaranteed. Everything has a trial. Try before you buy. No commitment from you at all. If you don't agree with me that it's the best software you've ever used, don't buy it. If you have any trouble in your purchase, if anything doesn't meet your expectations, everything's guaranteed by all these sellers. Talk to them about it. They will make it right. If anybody doesn't make it right, you reach out to me personally and I'll make it right, as long as what you want is reasonable. Okay? What other content creator stands behind the products they're endorsing like that? I'm not aware of any. But as a professional computer technician, I will treat you guys the same as I treat my paying customers. You'll get the same advice, get the same guarantees, and there's no arm twisting. If you don't need this stuff or you already have it, save your money, fine. But if you do need it or you do want to try it and you like it and want to buy it, be sure you use our discount codes for all of the above, for RoboForm, for Instant House Call, for Acronis, because it's going to save you money and I want you to save money. And these are discount codes exclusively for you guys. So my thanks to all of those companies for participating and supporting us, because we've already talked about YouTube's not doing it. Okay. And also thank you to Amara for creating our thumbnails, doing all that administration, taking care of a lot of correspondence, looking for other sponsorship opportunities and reaching out to companies for review products. It's taken a massive weight off my shoulders for her to do that. And hopefully it's going to result in getting you guys more content when I'm not so stressed out, right? I'm already feeling much lighter. So it's certainly affecting my attitude as well. And of course, thanks to all of you, all of your super chats, all of your memberships. And if you're new here, thanks for joining us. And hopefully you'll stick around and join us again. We just ask that you're kind. You don't have to prove to us how smart you are. In fact, we'd rather you didn't. Just be a normal person, be kind, be considerate. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what race you are. You see, jerks, they come in all different sizes and ages and flavors. So basically, don't be a jerk in your welcome year. All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you very soon. Tomorrow's the big Friday build. Every Friday, I do a video at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. That's currently 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, for those of you on either side of the coast here. And it's usually the kind of the big expensive video for the week. Something I don't do during the week. It's usually a big project. So tomorrow, Mitch Morrison, our good friend, will join us here to help build a system utilizing a new technique that MSI introduced called Project Zero. Project Zero moves all of the connectors on the front of the motherboard to the back, so you don't see any cabling. This does require a compatible case that allows for all those connectors to poke through the back, and then you just wire everything up behind the motherboard. So the only cable you should see would maybe be your CPU cooler or hoses if you're using an all-in-one cooler. Otherwise, zero cables. Therefore, Project Zero. Never done this before. Don't know many channels that have. Maybe unless they were sponsored by MSI. We are not. We paid for all these products with your memberships and your super chats. So we're fully independent here, and we hope you'll join us for this very unique build. That's again tomorrow, Friday, January the 19th, 2024. Want to make sure I'm still getting the date and the year right. And it's always good to see our friend Mitch. Hopefully he'll have a dad joke ready for us. Until tomorrow, bye for now.